have a little bit of a problem. You know, if you're going into advertising, you do realize that every day we see thousands of commercials, and we barely notice any of them. And if you do notice them, it's oftentimes they don't really connect with us, and then we go on our day and we forget about them. So if you're in a campaign, you want to be able to make a commercial that people notice, that connects with them emotionally, and that they remember long after they've seen the commercial. That's the kind of thing that's going to make people go out, buy your product, and tell their friends about it. So today I'm going to tell you about a tool that you can use within your campaigns called branded content. So first of all, what is branded content? Well, according to LinkedIn, Wikipedia, it's basically taking advertising and entertainment and kind of fusing the two together. You take two things that aren't normally associated with one another and you put them together, so it creates almost a more subtle form of advertisement. People feel like they're being entertained. Or they may not, it can just simply be a partnership or sponsorship. If you turn on the television and you see a Pepsi commercial and you see Michael Jackson and Britney Spears with Pepsi, that's a form of branded content. So first of all, how does this grab the attention of the consumer? Well, first of all, it establishes validity and it gives the consumer a reason to look. An example I'm going to give you of this is Nike. Nike did pretty well when they started, but in the 1980s, they made a kind of a fatal mistake. They were originally starting out trying to sell athletic shoes. They were appealing to people and saying, you know, if you want to go into sports, these are the shoes you want to buy. Well, they said, let's try a different angle. Let's just sell normal shoes for just everyday activities. And they had advertisements of people mowing their lawn wearing Nikes, and people stopped buying. All of a sudden, Reebok was #1. Like nowadays, you don't really think about Reebok shoes. So basically what happened was Phil Knight, who was one of the co-founders of Nike, he said, look guys, this is not working. So in 1985, they partnered with Michael Jordan. And he said, you know, I want to give your shoes a try. And they started showing commercials with Michael Jordan, and people started noticing him again. They said, okay, we're going to associate athletics, sports with Nike. So picking up on that momentum, they also partnered with Bo Jackson, and they started the first of their Just Do It campaign. And Nike has been really using that momentum all the way through today, and so we look at them as kind of like one of the standards for athletic shoes and different products. So basically, in Marketing Magazine, they've done a lot of articles on the changing face of advertising. Advertising today, people don't want to just feel like you're putting a product in their face necessarily. If you only show a commercial with the product itself, they want to feel like it has something to do with their life. They want to understand what the product's going to do for them. So if you use branded content and you partner it with something that people already know well, then this may catch people's attention better. But second of all, after you catch their attention, you have to keep their attention. And one of the best ways to do this is to make an emotional connection. An example of this is Dove. We all know about the Dove campaign for women. It did very well in the US. It caught people's attention. People felt like they could relate to it. So Dove thought they would take this over to China. Well, it didn't really work. People saw it, but there's kind of this idea in China that things that come over from America tend to be over dramatic. They look at our culture, they look at our TV shows, and it kind of turns them off. So what Dove did was they partnered with the Chinese launching of Ugly Betty. They had their own version over there, which was interesting to me, and it's kind of ironic in a way. But their story was different. Instead of being set in a fashion magazine, it was set in an advertising company. So it was like a prime spot for Dove's advertisements. So everywhere you saw in the TV show, there was Dove. In the first episode, her dad gave her a doll that had Dove on it, and it really connected with the audience. Another example I'm going to show you is a Nike commercial. You know, normally they're known for having really passionate, inspiring kind of commercials that are more serious. Well, they went a different route. They hired, you know, an actress, a pretty well-known producer, and I'm going to show you the short version of their free run advertisement. And see if it works.
You're so far away.
You're so far away.
I would run to you.
And I would run to you.
First time you talked to me,
I knew we were meant to be.
I love you there, I said.
I think I'm gonna need a medic.
Maybe I might die without you.
Baby, I might die.
At a business
I've been a pool of my own vomit.
That makes everything to me.
Give me all your support,
Baby, I love you so much that I would run to you.
You would run to me?
You would run to me.
Baby, I love you so much that I would run to you. I would run to you.
Did you hear that? Did you hear the beeping? The beeping sped up.
So from there you see, it's a really subtle version of advertising. You know, instead of just seeing, this is our new shoe, buy it for $130, really all you see is, like, she's wearing Nikes, they're running across the country to meet each other. He's not wearing Nikes. She makes it and he ends up in the hospital. It was very effective for them because they thought it was funny and they passed it down to their friends. So if you're wondering how you do this, I'm just going to throw in a tidbit about brand journalism. We know that journalists, good journalists, are passionate people. They're interested in connecting with the community. They care about what people want. So if you hire a brand journalist, they're going to get in the community, they're going to see what people care about, what's going to connect with them emotionally. So they can work with advertising campaigns, and like it really helps them create commercials like this that they know that people will respond well to. So lastly, the most important part of advertising is making sure that people remember your commercial. It's great if you get their attention, it's great if you connect with them, but you want them to remember it later on so that they go out, they buy your product, they tell their friends about it. You can do this through establishing a theme. Pretty much every major company does this in some way. For example, Pepsi, they're kind of known for partnering a lot with music, pop star artists. There was an article written on them when they partnered with like Michael Jackson. They did a lot of work with that. And they really set the bar for people who are partnering with music. Red Bull, they've been doing some really interesting stuff. They're kind of partnered with extreme sports, you know, extreme sporting events, snowboarding, motocross, you see Red Bull. And they recently were working with this guy named Felix Baumgartner. And he dropped from outer space to Earth. Like, you guys gotta go to YouTube and check this video out. Like, he's like he's out in space and they just record him and you see this guy just falling through the air, through the atmosphere and like landing. It's like incredible. And he's partnered with Red Bull. So people see that and they're like, whoa, this is really different. And this is the kind of advertising you want. It's gonna catch people's attention. It's gonna engage their emotions. So what happens when you do this is you create multiple product associations. So when you see extreme sports, you think Red Bull. When you see Michael Jordan, you think Nike. You see the Olympics, you might think P&G. This is what you want because people don't have to just look at your product. They can see other things, they can think of songs or see other things, and they'll think of your product. So in conclusion, branded content, it helps you catch consumer attention. You know, if they're not sure about your product, if you're Nike and people are ignoring your shoes, then you team up with a famous athlete and people start looking at your stuff again and establish validity with your product. Second, it'll hold consumer attention. You can use branded content in order to send a message, send a theme with people. You want to be careful that you don't just blindly use content. Just because you partner Britney Spears with Coke or Pepsi, it doesn't mean that's going to be effective. You have to think about the emotional message you want to send out through advertising. And lastly, it aids in the memory of a product. If people can create multiple associations with your product, they're more likely to say, hey, I want to lose weight, it's the new year, and I want to start running, and they think, oh, I'm going to go buy a pair of Nikes. This is what you want people to do and think. When you're creating an advertising campaign, if you can do these three things through using branded content, then you're more likely to sell your product and make a difference.